welcome tonight. Former President Goodluck Jonathan believes restructuring of Nigeria without addressing issues of nepotism, ethnic and religious bias will not achieve desired objective. President Buhari vows that his government will block tax loopholes exploited by some companies in the country, insists there's no plan to increase taxes. Federal government releases 6.45 billion naira for new oxygen plants in 38 locations across Nigeria for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. And US President Joe Biden rolls out his COVID-19 plan and signs executive orders to speed up vaccination against the virus and increase testing. Plus, we'll have business, sports, and later on news from our studios in London. On business news tonight, Central Bank of Nigeria disburses 14.35 billion naira loan to electricity distribution companies for acquisition of more than 260,000 meters for consumers in the country.
And on sports news tonight, FIFA warns players who compete in breakaway Super League will be barred from international competitions.
And from Abuja, federal government sets up expert committee to screen claims of herbal cure of COVID-19 by phyto practitioners.
Restructuring in Nigeria remains a contemporary issue as prominent Nigerians gathered today in Abuja to bare their minds. While former President Goodluck Jonathan believes that restructuring alone will not end the problems of the country, others argue that there's still a need to review the nation's constitution. Our correspondent Linda Akigbe reports.
Depending on who you talk to, restructuring means different things to different people. For some, it's evolving power from the center to other federating units, while for others, it means resource control, revised revenue sharing formula, and so on. Regardless of the many definitions and intentions, the consensus at this dialogue in Abuja is that restructuring is one of the solutions to Nigeria's socio-economic and political challenges.
We must restructure because our current electoral system is dysfunctional. I watched with complete and utter disappointment social media films of underage children voting in the last local government elections in Kano last week. No reasonable government would tolerate this kind of brigandage. If we had stronger regional government, it would perhaps manage the situation better.
What form should the restructuring take, and the time frame seems to be areas which guests at this event and even proponents of restructuring have not been able to agree on.
To restructure, Nigeria needs a constitutional conference of all ethnic groups in Nigeria. To use the current National Assembly as a forum for constitutional amendment grants a tacit recognition of the overthrow of our democratic norms by the enthronement of a military constitution by which they are composed. The outcome of the Constitutional Conference must be subjected to a public plebiscite in which all adult Nigerians have rights to vote.
The best way to do it is to look at the legislative lists and deconcentrate power from the federal government, which has been concentrated under military rule, devolve them back to the states and give commensurate resources to the states.
But former President Dr. Goodluck Jonathan warns that restructuring would not solve all the country's problems, a view which a former Minister of Agriculture shares.
Restructuring alone may not solve all the anomalies in our system. I believe that restructuring for a better nation is good, but there are other fundamental issues we should also address. We cannot restructure in isolation without tackling the challenges that polarize our nation. These include nepotism, ethnic and religious differences, as well as lack of patriotism.
Even if we restructure without dealing with fundamental problems of political management at the state level, at the local government level, there will still be the same grief.
During the campaigns, the ruling All Progressives Congress pledged to introduce constitutional changes to establish true federalism and set up a committee headed by the Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai on restructuring. Not much has been heard about the report on restructuring, prompting questions about the disposition of the ruling party to indeed make good its pledge. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Tax issues are being revisited by the federal government as the president today insists that he has no intention of increasing taxes but will ensure that loopholes that enable evasion will be blocked. President Muhammadu Buhari's remarks were made virtually at the National Tax Dialogue from the State House in Abuja. He also asked Nigerians to be alive to their tax obligations, bearing in mind that Nigeria's tax-to-GDP ratio is as low as 6%.
A taxation dialogue at a time when government revenues are at an all-time low, thanks partly to the COVID-19 pandemic, is crucial as the government plans for a post-coronavirus economy.
There is so much to look forward to in the coming years. The FRS is starting this decade with the resolve to leapfrog tax administration into the digital age. Ladies and gentlemen, we are banking on your continuous support as we embark on this one-year journey.
A tax-to-GDP ratio of 6% could support the assertion that Nigerians are tax evaders. However, there are nominal and implicit taxes. According to the president of the African Development Bank, Nigerians pay some of the highest implicit taxes in the world. The only other explanation as to why Nigerians may be tax defaulters is a failure in their social contract with the government.
Taxation is a social contract between government and citizens. Tax compliance are higher when citizens are provided the needed public goods in exchange for tax payments. Accountability and transparency builds trust, and trust powers higher tax compliance. When citizens see the benefits of taxes, they will have incentives to pay taxes.
President Muhammadu Buhari wants Nigerians to be alive to their tax obligations. He assures that there will be no increase in taxes.
This administration is, however, not seeking to increase the tax burden upon the citizens, but to plug the existing tax loopholes or leakages and to ensure even an equitable application of the tax laws.
Nigeria's deficit budgeting over the years has increased its debt profile to 32 trillion naira. The Buhari administration has made attempts to cushion the burden of taxes in the 2019 and 2020 Finance Acts, exempting small businesses and minimum wage workers. However, the president wants the FIRS to stop the profit shifting by foreign businesses. From the State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
And here in Lagos, it's still a tug of war to obtain the national identification number, even with the booking system introduced by the National Identity Management Commission to decongest enrollment centers. This did not deter the usual crowd from turning up at the centers. At the Lausa office of the commission, enrollees complain about the cumbersome nature of the process. Our correspondent Daredu reports.
Come early, book ahead, and wait to be called in. Will they be called in before the deadline? And the fear of being deactivated from the network has kept many here pushing their luck. The scuffle on the queue, a regular game of fitness, at least for everyone who wants to stay in line. There are those who would rather sit out, waiting for the less chaotic option. Scenes of disagreement here and there, and the argument is largely about the process and the question of transparency.
We knew what happened last week, even on Monday, Tuesday as well. So this is what we find ourselves here, and on daily basis it appears that we have been brutalized, we have been embarrassed at the estate of this COVID-19 widespread disease.
Bilesomi Adesina has been coming here not for registration, it says. Misinformation is one of the problems and enrollees need to do better.
Less than 1 hour ago, I've been in. They allowed me to get in. I've seen about 1 to 200. These people are attending to. And they even give them some afternoon section. Afternoon section that they had some people to come back around 2 p.m.
The deadline for registration is February the 9th, but here in Alausa, enrollees are getting a date in March to get registered.
Just asked me to write my name, and I wrote my name down, and they collected the number, the names. So after the name, I asked them that, which day can I come? They said March 4.
The new guidelines, which took effect since December 2020, is expected to contain the spread of COVID-19. The large gathering here, however, does not suggest the approach is yielding the desired results. Dari Idu, Channels Television News.
And it's a similar tale in Abuja, where there is no respite for those yet to obtain their national identification numbers. Now let's bring you the report from Abuja, where Nigerians are asking that the registration be concluded as soon as possible to eliminate the inconveniences being faced by many.
The registration of the national identity number and link of existing NIN to SIM cards has generated a lot of controversies across the country. From large crowds at enrollment centers to the challenge of getting registered or collecting NIN printouts.
Very, very stressful. I went there the first time, I didn't see anybody to attend to me. I left. After a week today, I came back again and I thought the crowd would reduce, but people are still sitting there without nobody is attending to them.
Some of the enrollees are of the opinion that those who want to link their NIN to their SIM cards do not have any business at enrollment centers.
Not necessarily coming around, it's time wasting. Use your phone and the code is forgotten. When you press the phone, the code with your phone, they ask you if your NIN number, you send it. And that's all. You don't need to stress yourself, stay in your house, anywhere you are, and then you do it. You don't need to go to anywhere.
However, this enrollee has a different view.
There's still some who are not that, technically savvy. They don't, they're not IT savvy. They cannot do most of these things that maybe you and I can do on their phone. And aside that, some of them doesn't even have that phone, that data phone, like Android phone that they can use to do such. So such people, where will they go? They will need to go to such center.
Others also suggest that the commission should get its portal working again.
If the portal was working, I'm sure it will be more organized, because now they're just writing names and calling lists. Some people are using other people's names. You understand? And then some people are also going behind to enter.
They also appeal to the federal government to conclude the exercise as soon as possible to enable those affected to get back to their source of livelihood.
We put off about over 3 million youth out of job. Well, if you can see, if you look around you now, you will not see anybody doing SIM registration on the road. My plea to the government is that please, as soon as possible, let the boys go back on the street. Let them have something to do. Since nobody is giving them palliative, and we don't want the kind of incident that happened sometime in October last year, we don't want it to repeat itself.
With a deadline fixed for February the 9th, prospective enrollees look forward to getting their lines registered so that the exercise would not affect their source of income.
In part 2, after the break, federal government sets up expert committee to screen claims of herbal cure of COVID-19 by traditional practitioners. That's in a moment. Please join us again. Back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Former President Goodluck Jonathan believes restructuring of Nigeria without addressing issues of nepotism, ethnic and religious bias will not achieve desired objective. President Buhari vows that his government will block tax loopholes exploited by some companies in the country, insists there is no plan to increase taxes. Federal government releases 6.45 billion naira for new oxygen plants in 38 locations across Nigeria for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. And U.S. President Joe Biden rolls out his COVID-19 plan and signs executive orders to speed up vaccination against the virus and increase testing. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved 6.45 billion naira for the setting up of a gas plant in 36 locations nationwide in a bid to enhance the treatment of COVID-19 patients who require oxygen. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, announced the approval at the first National Economic Council meeting of the year, presided over by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Briefing State House correspondents at the end of the meeting, the Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa explained that the gas plants became necessary due to the second wave of the virus.
One thing that has also become very important is the need for oxygen, to ensure that there's oxygen availability in every health institution where people have been attended to, especially the moderate to severe cases of the COVID-19 infection, because we found that lack of oxygen actually is a killer for those who are either moderate or severe, have moderate or severe cases. So a lot of the states have been advised to ensure that they have oxygen availability through oxygen generating plants, and we have also been told that beyond what the states have in their various health institutions, the CBN briefed us on the fact that through CACOVID, they are making provisions also to supply, but currently mainly they make supplies to Abuja and to Lagos, and also particularly to routes in Lagos. And they will continue to do the best they can to support states on request. The Minister of Finance also did brief us that some money has been released to the Ministry of Health, 555 million naira to 5 tertiary institutions to help support the oxygen plants, that's oxygen generation in their various institutions, and that 6.45 billion naira is being released to the Ministry of Health to develop oxygen plants, new oxygen plants across the nation in about 38 locations.
Let's cross over to Abuja now. Here's Terry Ikumi with more. Terry?
Well, hello, Ijoma. Welcome to the nation's capital, Abuja. There's still a long road ahead for traditional medicine practitioners who submitted 58 claims of herbal solutions to cure the coronavirus 4 months ago. The Minister of State for Health, Dr. Olorunniyi Mamora, explains that an expert committee will be inaugurated for further screening purposes. He was speaking in Abuja, the nation's capital.
A total number of 58 practitioners made submissions on remedies for COVID-19. One of the outcomes of the interaction of that day was that the ministry will put in place modalities for facilitating the evaluation of the claims by National Agency for Food and Drug Administration Control and necessary clinical trials. This informed the need to constitute a standing expert committee to screen these claims, identify products that would be recommended for further evaluation by NAFDAC, and plan for the appropriate clinical trials. In terms of reference of this expert screening committee, they are as follows. A, to compile lists of claimants with herbal medicinal products for management of various ailments. F is to identify research institutes for clinical trial. It is our desire to support these claimants in the process of evaluating their products with a view to finding local solutions to the menace of COVID-19 and other ailments bedeviling our people.
Meanwhile, the Nigeria Governors Forum has been speaking of its plan towards accelerating the arrival of the COVID-19 vaccines into the country as soon as possible to protect the lives of Nigerians. Following a meeting of the forum last night, its chairman, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, explains that he and his colleagues have resolved to avert another lockdown by promoting adherence to non-pharmaceutical interventions and safety protocols. He said this in an interview on our program, Politics Today.
I think as leaders, we have a duty, we have a responsibility to protect every of our citizens. And people are dying from COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria. The positivity rate is increasing. And at our meeting yesterday, many of my colleagues expressed their fears about this and the need for us to take appropriate measures, including ensuring that the vaccines get to Nigeria quickly. We can go into the politics and diplomacy of vaccination. We can go into politics of health care. That there's a place for that. But the reality has to be dealt with. How do we stem the tide of Nigerians dying? I understand those who also feel we should not just give up because of COVID-19 and not continue to run our lives and run our economy. We don't want a complete lockdown in the economy. And we're also not talking just about pharmaceutical responses to COVID-19. We're talking about non-pharmaceutical responses as well, which is what has necessitated the promotion of nose mask wearing, the promotion of social distancing, and the promotion of reduction in the number of public engagements that we indulge in. It's for the good of our people.
And the Yobe state government is placing priority on the health sector, with emphasis on more medical researches and procurement of state-of-the-art equipment for its own teaching hospital, which handles more serious medical cases. The Commissioner of Health, Dr. Lawan Gana, in an interaction with journalists, explains that the effort is to discourage referrals of citizens to other states for medical treatment, among other reasons.
Rebuilding and improving access to healthcare services now seems to be a top priority of the Yobe state government in the northeast, with its recent investment in the construction of 53 primary healthcare centers across the state. The government has also renovated centers and equipped the state's university teaching hospital in Damaturu, the state capital, with state-of-the-art equipment to enhance service delivery.
These machines were upgraded to provide more sophisticated tests that are not even available in other parts of the country. As said, only 3 centers carry out such studies in the whole country, which Yobe State is one of them. All these machines are actually procured with maintenance agreement with the companies. So periodically we have planned preventive maintenance as well as agreements with the company that come and replace parts and other things.
The machines that the state government procured for the radiology department include the CT scanner, which you can see is an 80-slice CT scanner. We also have 1.5 Tesla MRI machine. We have a digital mammography machine. We also have the conventional X-ray machine and digital X-ray machine. We have ultrasound scanners, and then we also have the digital imaging system.
The aim of the upgrade, according to the authorities, is to ensure that residents receive affordable and adequate care. But this patient has a word for the government.
The government has tried more than I think you can think of. But what I would advise is that they should invest more on manpower and equipment, and especially on training people who can handle the equipment. This is very important.
Yobe State is one of the most affected by Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, and while struggling with loss of lives, displacement of people, and destruction of property owing to the violence, the state government wants to ensure an ailing healthcare system is no longer part of the burden.
We are demonstrating the articulating surface of the tibia now. So if we
Away from health matters now, in Ondo State, Governor Kaduna is receiving the support of major stakeholders in the state on his recent pronouncement asking herdsmen to vacate the state's forests within 7 days. Farmers, forest guards and transporters in the state today staged a peaceful protest to the office of the governor to express their grievances on the activities of some herdsmen in the state. The protesters say they are in total support of the governor's directive.
The one-week ultimatum given by the Ondo State Governor for all herdsmen to leave the state's forest reserves early in the week is still generating reaction. This time around, farmers, transporters, forest guards are protesting. They're insisting that they can no longer condone the excesses of the herders in the state's forests and highways.
It is on record that farmers in Ondo State have lost much over 2,000 hectares of rice and 3,000 hectares of cassava, just to mention a few. Want to therefore ask that roaming of animals, grazing of animals should be entirely banned in Ondo State.
This rice farmer narrates how his wife was raped and killed by suspected herdsmen.
My wife was picking palm fruits inside her farm. One of the Fulani herdsmen came there and looked around and said, Baba is not in the farm, that he wanted to rape her. He said, why should you rape me? That a child is with me, my daughter is with us here now. Herdsman refused and raped the woman. Later, just 2 days later, the woman got sick and she eventually died.
Even forest guards are not left out from attacks from the herders.
We are soliciting for the support of the government more to ensure that we have we can carry out our duty freely.
The Secretary to the Ondo State Government, Temitayo Oluwatoyi, addresses the protesters on behalf of the governor. He assures them that the government will address the issue adequately and ensure their safety.
He has not said that they should leave Ondo State. He said no, they should leave the forest, they should stop grazing at night. He doesn't want underage grazing. So I want to assure you all that Mr. Governor is up to the task.
The protesters are hoping that the government will ensure there is security and peaceful coexistence in the state.
When the news at 10 returns, Central Bank of Nigeria disburses 14.3 billion naira loan to electricity distribution companies for acquisition of more than 260,000 meters for consumers in the country. That's on Business News. Join us again.
Welcome back to the news at 10. The wife of the embattled leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, has reportedly contracted COVID-19 at a correctional center in Kaduna State. And that's according to the spokesman for the group, Ibrahim Musa, who told Channels Television that she tested positive for COVID-19 a second time yesterday. He, however, appeals to the authorities of the Nigerian Correctional Service to allow her seek proper medical attention in line with COVID-19 protocols. To some judicial matters now. The ongoing 90-day Edo State Judicial Panel of Inquiry for victims of SARS and related abuses, which was supposed to come to an end on January the 25th, 2021, has been extended by 6 weeks. The panel's chairman said the state government, at the request of the panel, extended the sittings to ensure that all matters brought to the panel are duly heard and justice is served. She said a total of 164 petitions were received, 78 have been fully concluded, 9 have been struck out, and about 30 are ready for review, leaving the panel with about 50 matters to entertain. The chairman also urged the general public to help out with information regarding the current address of a former DPO of Ogida Police Station, Karo Afegi, whose name has appeared before the panel a number of times for extrajudicial killings. Afegi, who was retired from the force, was earlier summoned by the panel, but instead of appearing in person, she sent her counsel, who turned the petition down. Her counsel instead sued the panel to the State High Court, requesting for an injunction over any matter relating to her. In Kano State, an appeal court has set aside the death sentence imposed on Yahaya Sharif Aminu, who was convicted for blasphemy. The presiding judge, Justice Nuruddin Sagir, and his co-panelist, Justice Nasiru Saminu, ruled that the first trial was full of irregularities and that the appellant was not given fair legal representation. They submitted that the judgment by an upper Sharia court contravenes Section 269 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. Justice Sagir also ordered that the appellant, who should be tried by another judge, should get full legal representation. Meanwhile, the Appellate's Division of the State High Court also set aside the 10-year imprisonment sentence on 13-year-old Omar Farouk, who was convicted for blasphemy by the state's upper Sharia court in August last year. Away from legal matters now, the federal government says it succeeded in reducing the number of out-of-school children from 10.1 million to 6.94 million since May 2020. At a ministerial briefing in Abuja, the Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu, says the reduction was made possible with the introduction of better education service delivery for all, which has been launched in 10 states.
The issue of out-of-school children is a major focus of this ministerial briefing as heads of agencies under the Ministry of Education meet to review the performance of the sector in 2020. Reading out statistics, the Ministry of Education announces that over 3.1 million children are now enrolled in schools, majorly in northern Nigeria.
As of today, we have recorded impressive school enrollment figures in all 17 states of the Federation, where ESA is being implemented. We have reduced the figure of out-of-school children by listening to the figure: 3,247,590 at the end of the year. That is, this figure was valid that 1st December 2020.
The Minister of Information, on his part, emphasizes that the President Buhari-led administration is focusing on expansion of access to quality education and affordable health care.
The administration is also working on expanding business growth, entrepreneurship and rationalization, expanding access to quality education, affordable health care, and productivity of Nigerians. Building a system to fight corruption, improve governance, create social cohesion, and improving security for all.
Beyond the impressive school enrollment figures recorded in 17 states of the Federation, where the better education service delivery for all is being implemented, the Minister of Education applauds the government for its investment in tertiary education.
It's well qualified and addressed of Muhammad Buhari administration has witnessed massive investment in capital projects, totaling 1.7 trillion in tertiary institutions, with the university in the large share.
With the introduction of a new retirement age for teachers, better days appear to be in the horizon for teachers in the basic education sector.
No fewer than 4 people, including a village head, have been killed by persons suspected to be bandits in Chikun, Igabi, as well as Giwa local government areas of Kaduna State. The killings occurred just days after the village head of Konti community in Chikun local government of the state, Samaila, Johanna, and 4 others were murdered by bandits. Confirming the latest incidents, the State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, said the bandits attacked Chikun local government area and killed the ward head of Baranje community near Bukuru and another local, Ruben Adamu. He adds that one Ibrahim Salisu was also murdered by the bandits in Giwa local government after a failed attempt to kidnap him. According to Mr. Arwan, the bandits again struck along the Lagos-Jos Road in Igabi local government area, where they murdered a herder, Abdullahi Saleh. Over in Anambra State, the governor, Willie Obiano, has set up a 14-member panel of inquiry to look into the recent land dispute between Umueri and Aguleri communities in Anambra East local government area of the state. The two communities have been at war since 1999, started a fresh dispute last Saturday with several buildings and property destroyed. Inaugurating the panel, the Deputy Governor, Mr. Nkem Okeke, told members of the panel to recommend solutions that will guarantee lasting peace in the area.
Broken windows, fences and other damaged property. The aftermath of the communal crisis between Umueri and Aguleri communities, which occurred again on January the 16th. Vehicles, motorcycles and buildings under construction are not spared. The land dispute between the two communities, which dates back to 1999, became a full-blown war that has taken its toll on both sides of the divide. Several administrations have tried to wade in to no avail. The two communities appear to be fed up and now want peace.
Normalcy has returned to a large extent because His Excellency Dr. Willie Obiano, the Executive Governor of Anambra State, he took the bull by the horn by making sure that there is enough security presence in the boundaries of Aguleri and Umueri.
We have addressed our people so that everybody will go back home. We don't need crisis in this area any longer. The one we had over years set this community back, particularly Anambra East.
The Commissioner of Police in Anambra State, Mr. John Abang, is not unmindful of the recent crisis.
Umueri-Aguleri challenge that happened recently has been nipped in the bud. And contrary to speculations in online media, no life was lost. The police and other security agencies moved in and were able to restore normalcy.
In a bid to address it, a 14-member panel set up by the government is inaugurated by the Deputy Governor with a charge to ensure a resolution that will guarantee lasting peace.
There's a type of governance for the committee. Number one is to establish immediate cause of the disputes that are occurred between Aguleri and Umueri communities. That should be an easy one. Number two, invite and intervene the parties that own the lands in dispute. Number three, establish the boundary between Aguleri and Umueri as a whole, as a difficult one. Four, recommend other possible solutions that will guarantee lasting peace in the area. The committee has 3 weeks to conclude this assignment.
The chairman of the panel and a retired Air Vice Marshal gives assurances of getting the right result.
I want to tell you, Your Excellency, that with the quality of men and women that I have seen today, I have no doubt in my mind that within the limit of time that has been allotted for this assignment, that will be our best shot.
The panel, made up of the Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General of the state, the Commissioner for Lands, including traditional rulers of the two warring communities, has 3 weeks to complete this assignment.
Oil and gas experts, regulators and service providers today converged on Lagos for a strategic industry initiative aimed at improving safety and cost efficiency. The event is the unveiling of the Nigeria National Oil and Gas Excellence Center and was launched virtually by the President Muhammadu Buhari.
Reacting very early in the year to prevailing global situation which is taking a toll on national economies, the federal government of Nigeria is rallying to hedge a critical sector of the economy, the oil and gas. That response has bettered the National Oil and Gas Excellence Center here in Lagos, housed in this building. And the very essence why everyone in this room and those joining virtually are gathered to hear what exactly this is about and what it's meant to achieve.
The Nigerian Oil and Gas Excellence Center encompasses industry-focused program that will drive strategic mediation in operation, skills and competence development, use of big data, Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence for decision-making, deployment of proven technology for secondary and tertiary oil recovery, as well as coordinated response for emergency.
Next, to shed more light from the policy standpoint of view is the Minister of State for Petroleum.
NOGEC has been carefully designed to support the achievement of the ministerial priorities, significant amongst which are cost reduction, increase in production, and value optimization in the industry.
Once again, as he has done very recently, the President is joining remotely to endorse this initiative and launch it.
For the benefit of the oil industry and Nigerians in general, to the glory of God.
This center opens a new set of opportunities for the Nigerian petroleum industry in terms of investments, cost reduction, safety in operations, and capacity development. The establishment of the National Oil and Gas Excellence Center aligns with our administration's commitment to foster stability, growth, and sustainability of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, consistent with the economic development.
Housed in this resource center is the Search, Rescue and Surveillance Command and Control Center, National Improved Oil Recovery, Oil and Gas Alternative Dispute Resolution, Oil and Gas Competence Development Center, and Integrated Data Mining and Analytical Center, all geared towards safety, value and cost efficiency. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Let's take a look at some business news now. Here's Anne Wilder.
Hello and welcome to Business News. As part of efforts to check estimated billings for electricity consumers in Nigeria, the central bank has disbursed 14.35 billion naira loan to distribution companies to acquire 263,860 meters. In a tweet made today, the presidency says the maximum tenor of the CBN's loan facility is 10 years, which will not go beyond 2030, while the moratorium on the principal amount is for the period not exceeding 24 months from the date of loan disbursement. The presidency mentions that repayment of that loan facility will be deducted from payments made by consumers into DISCO's account with banks. In August last year, President Buhari ordered a metering of electricity consumers across the country under the National Mass Metering Program. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the reappointment of Mrs. Hadiza Bala Usman as the Managing Director of the Nigerian Ports Authority for another 5-year tenure. The President also approved the reconstitution of the Non-Executive Board of the NPA with Emmanuel Adesoye as the Chairman. Other members of the board are Ekenye Nwafo Orizu from the Southeast, Akinwumi Ricketts from South-South Zone, Ghazali Mejenyawa from Northeast, Mustafa Dutse, Northwest, and Abdul Wahab Adeshino, North Central. Mrs. Bala Usman was first appointed as the Managing Director of the NPA in 2016. Let's head to the local market now, where it sustained or failed to sustain the loan gain that was recorded in the previous session, as most of the key indicators ended in the red today with 50 losers, while the total volume of traders closed higher today at 72.6%. Let's hear the details from Teniola Shibawali.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Contrary to expectations, the bear resurfaced at the equities market today, reversing the moderate gain rebound recorded on Wednesday by almost half of its previous value. It seems the first month of the year is already beginning with a struggle for supremacy between the two market rivals, and this is because investors switched back to profit-taking mode by a wider margin, which led to a 0.12% drop on the all-share index. Now, let's take a look at the sectoral performance chart. We can see that the impact of sell pressure, which affected 50 equities, was mostly felt by the insurance sector, which had been recording an astronomical rise within the last 2 weeks. However, the 25 billion naira drop in the market's overall value is largely credited to losses recorded by Dangote Cement, Guinness Flour Mills, and Cadbury. Meanwhile, traders say this does not come as a surprise, as short-term investors are just taking advantage of the gains recorded on Wednesday, while performance on the activity chart shows that total turnover of shares transactions surged to 1.12 billion units. The third trading week ends tomorrow, so let's keep our fingers crossed for the next direction of the market. And that's the stock market report. I'm Tenuola Shoboale.
And that's business news tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Juma.
Thanks a lot, Anne. U.S. President Joe Biden has signed 10 executive orders on the coronavirus pandemic in the United States. President Biden explained that the orders at a press briefing include compulsory testing and quarantine for visitors coming to the United States from other countries and boosting the number of COVID-19 vaccine centers to improve the vaccination rollout. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. President Joe Biden has started his presidency by signing a string of executive orders that will undo much of the work of his predecessor, Donald Trump.
We're going to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord as of today.
The United States is set to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement and stop the withdrawal process from the World Health Organization, both initiated by Mr. Trump. President Biden has also officially reversed some of the most divisive policies of Mr. Trump's White House, such as ending the travel ban on predominantly Muslim and African countries and halting the construction of the wall on the US-Mexico border. The president has also launched his 100 Days Masking Challenge, ordering a mandatory mask mandate in all US federal buildings for the first 100 days of his administration to try and curb the spread of COVID-19. Meanwhile, China has imposed sanctions on outgoing Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and 27 other high-ranking officials. The Chinese government has accused Mr. Pompeo and the other officials of prejudice and hatred against China. The Foreign Ministry has said that the former Trump administration officials have been anti-China politicians who have undermined the relationship between the US and China. The officials that have been sanctioned also include Trade Chief Peter Navarro, National Security Advisors Robert O'Brien and John Bolton, Health Secretary Alex Azar, UN Ambassador Kelly Craft, and former top Trump aide Steve Bannon. A twin suicide bombing has killed at least 28 people and wounded 73 others in Baghdad. A double explosion hit a crowded market street of the Iraqi capital near Tehran Square. A military spokesman said 2 suicide bombers detonated their explosives while being pursued by security forces. No group has so far claimed responsibility for the attack, but suicide attacks have mostly been used by ISIS. This has been the first suicide blast in Baghdad since January 2018. Ugandan opposition leader Bobi Wine has filed an arbitrary detention complaint to the United Nations. Mr. Wine has been under house arrest with the military surrounding his residence in the capital Kampala since Friday after he began disputing the results of the presidential election. The opposition leader had said he will legally contest the result of the election, alleging widespread fraud. Mr. Wine lost to incumbent President Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power since 1986. The European Union has said it is concerned about the continued harassment of politicians and civil society activists in the country after the general election. A fire has broken out at the Serum Institute of India, the world's biggest vaccine maker. A source close to the firm has said that the fire will not affect the production of coronavirus vaccines. Currently, the Serum Institute is manufacturing millions of doses of vaccine developed by Oxford University and AstraZeneca for India and many other low and middle-income countries. Reports have said that the blaze was at a new plant under construction at a large facility. Meanwhile, India's government has offered to suspend implementation of 3 new farm laws that have sparked widespread protests across the country. The Agriculture and Farmers Welfare Minister has said that during the suspension, representatives of the government and farmers should work together to provide solutions for the industry. Farmers have said that the new laws would put them at the mercy of big corporations and effectively making India's traditional wholesale markets irrelevant. So far, all the talks between the farmers and the government to try and solve the deadlock have failed. People have been evacuated overnight due to widespread flooding across England and Wales caused by Storm Christoph. Over 2,000 homes have been affected by the severe storm. Currently there are more than 200 flood warnings in place, 7 of them severe, and weather alerts for heavy rain and snow. Trains have been cancelled between Manchester, Liverpool and Warrington, and people are being urged not to travel unless absolutely necessary. Emergency workers have also been called out to protect supplies of the Oxford vaccine, as the massive warehouse in Wrexham storing the supply has been at risk of flooding. And finally, Nepal will turn trash collected from Mount Everest into art in a bid to highlight the need to save the world's tallest mountain from turning into a dumping site. Used oxygen bottles, torn tents, ropes, cans and plastic wrappers that have been discarded by climbers will be handled and segregated by a local environmental group and will be transformed into art and displayed in a nearby gallery. Solely in 2019, an estimated 80,000 trekkers, climbers and guides have visited the area, and as it can be seen from these images, tons of trash have been left on Mount Everest. However, since there are no roads, it's thought cleaning the remote region will be a huge challenge. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Nigerian football was thrown into mourning earlier today following the news of the death of former Green Eagles goalkeeper and one-time assistant coach of the Super Eagles, Joe Errico. He made his debut for the then Green Eagles in an Africa Cup of Nations qualifying match against Zambia in Lagos in July 1973, and then kept goal in all of Nigeria's 6 matches at the 1976 Africa Cup of Nations in Ethiopia, where the Eagles finished 3rd. World Football governing body FIFA says that players who feature in any breakaway European Super League will be banned from playing in FIFA competitions, including the World Cup. In a joint statement with the European governing body UEFA and 5 continental confederations, FIFA say they will not recognize any such breakaway. That's sports news. Ijoma, back to you.
Thanks a lot, Olumide. And the main news again. Former President Goodluck Jonathan today weighed in on the ongoing discussion on the restructuring of the country and expressed his belief that without addressing issues of nepotism, ethnic and religious bias, restructuring Nigeria will not achieve the desired objective. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Good night.